emotions that you do not like, emotions that you that are negative. It's a form of self-protection. So blocking out trauma from your brain is a form of protection for adults. So this usually happens. This is a very common thing for adults. They try to like block out the memory and like, nah, it never happened. Bro, it happened. You need to acknowledge it and then, do some introspection and heal and move on.
Peace, progress, and prosperity. Always remember, you are not alone.
Okay, so welcome to another informative episode of Brother Skipper, the mental health podcast for men. My name is Onola Fatoba. I am your host and your brother. I remain my brother Skipper until the day I breathe my last. I say that every time and I mean it. And if you see my videos for the first time, if you're new to the channel, if this is the first time that you're seeing my content, this is the first time you're seeing my face, I'd like to say very big congratulations. And right after that, please do subscribe, share, like, watch this video to the end. Let me know what you think. The topic is mental health for men, and particularly today we are discussing male sexual abuse, people who have suffered trauma, men who have suffered trauma sexually from their childhood, and how they can cope, how they can heal, how they can manage these stressors and triggers, and basically move on from the trauma of being abused sexually as a child. And if you're a returning viewer or you're a subscriber, or if you've seen my videos, or you're a fellow brother of this channel, I'd like to say very big thank you. I know it's been a while that I made a video. I know it's been some days, months actually, but yeah. It's been a while I made a long form video. I made one at the beginning of this year, and I basically did an intro of the topics that we're going to be going into. And like I said earlier, one of them is male sexual abuse, which is a very controversial and interesting topic. And I'm hoping this video is useful for someone out there. This video helps someone out there who has suffered trauma from sexual abuse as a young adult, as a young man. So without further ado, please let's get into it. Subscribe if you haven't. Please like the video, leave a comment, share your experience, whatever you think is going to be helpful to a fellow brother out there. And if out of the goodness of your heart you think that the videos on this channel are good, please do share. Support the movement to create a community where men are not afraid to confront their emotions and speak out. So let's get into it. So male sexual abuse is often overlooked in today's society, and it's a very, 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 very sensitive topic. So I'm not going to be politically correct or delicate. I'm just going to try and address it the way I know best. And caveat, I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not licensed to give you mental health advice, but at the same time, I believe from experience, I can tell you what you can do to get better and how you can get better. So yes, this video is going to be, I don't know, triggering for some people, because I'm going to say certain things that, if you've experienced male sexual abuse as a child growing up, this might trigger you, and, I don't know. So please forgive me ahead if I see anything that is triggering. And without further ado, let me get into it. So the video is going to go through certain stages. The first stage is identifying what is male sexual abuse. What can you consider male sexual abuse? We're first going to deal with that. Then we're going to go to how you can heal if you've gone through, that process of male sexual abuse. So basically, under the identification part, we're still going to talk about certain things, and under the healing part, we're going to talk about other things. But those are the two major categories. Those are the two major categories that this video is going to be divided into. Like I said earlier, male sexual abuse is a topic that most people avoid because of its sensitivity. And this sensitivity comes from the fact that in today's world, generally, even in yesterday's world, in any world, a man is perceived as strong, capable of enforcing violence, order, and creating chaos. It is believed that a man is more or less a rock, so to speak. Let's use that term. A man is as solid as a rock, so he shouldn't leak, he shouldn't break. Now, when it comes to discussing male sexual abuse, there's the stigma that the society gives, that the stigma that the society, what's it called, applies to victims of male sexual abuse. There's fear, there's shame, there's stigma. There's often abuse that follows afterwards. Even after the sexual abuse, there is the mental abuse that follows after the sexual abuse. So these are things that make men not want to come out and say, oh, I've been sexually abused. I give you this for a fact. I think it was 1 in 6 boys or 1 in 4 boys are sexually abused before the age of 11 or 14. I keep missing that statistics. I'm going to look it up in a minute. And sorry, just give me a second. Okay, so National Institute of Health here says that over 27% of men have been sexually victimized in times of their lives. And this includes molestation, sexual illicit sexual activities and all that. But let's just roll with that, what's it called, statistics. 27% of men. And the crazy thing is, sometimes we actually have to acknowledge the fact that this is a very serious topic in the society, and nobody's talking about it because, yeah, it has to do with men. And you know like I said, men are supposed to be strong, unbreakable, unbendable, and all that. So talking about, this vulnerability, which is, having been sexually abused, it can't possibly end well for men. So let's now talk about the different ways abuse can manifest in both adult and children. So this is the stage where we're going to identify what is abuse. So sexual abuse in men usually starts, if you escape it when you're a kid, before your teenage years, you're most likely going to get into it in your teenage years. Sometimes it could be perpetrated by women, it could be perpetrated by men, it could be perpetrated by your peers, adults, whatever. Anybody can be the perpetrator and anyone can be the victim. And I kid you not, this could happen to anyone. Mostly it happens to children because children don't have the experience and the knowledge to deal with such stuff yet. So there is little room for what's it called, escaping when it comes to these things. You would have to have a very solid background, parents that are very active in your life, and um very, very, very awakened sense of sexual intercourse for you not to experience sexual abuse as a child and as a teenager. And even at that, the chances are still that somebody somewhere is going to come and F up your day, your life, your mental well being. So for children, sexual abuse looks different to what it looks like in adults. So for kids, um it's you won't find a lot of overt actions in what's it called, during the duration of the abuse. So sometimes children tend to come out during the course of the abuse or after the abuse, whichever way. There are signs and things that you have to pay attention to. If you start seeing these things, if you start seeing these signs, if you start noticing these things, then you might want to start questioning the people, the adults or the kids that you leave around your children, and their intentions and their actions, especially when it comes to vulnerability and sex. So one of the very prominent signs of sexual abuse in a child is that they start acting out sexually. They start mentioning things that are way beyond their age. They start relating to things that they shouldn't relate to at that age because somebody somewhere is experimenting with them or showing them things that they shouldn't be exposed to yet. So the inappropriate behavior at that age, they could start hoarding pornographic materials. They could start spending a lot of time alone in secluded areas with somebody. They could, a whole lot of things that look suspicious. I'd say suspicious. So Any signs of fear, anxiety, confusion, around a particular adult when it comes to your kids should be taken seriously. So when you leave your kid alone with someone and then you come back and you notice a difference in your child's countenance, attitude, behavior, any slight difference, you need to pay a lot of attention as a parent, actually. And this is not just for parents, this is also for anybody out there who has kids around them that they're monitoring or taking care of. Once you start noticing anything, you know, different in their way of life, you need to, make a note of it and investigate. I usually tell my mom that every time you go and you come back and you say, oh, I know what my kids are capable of, I know what my kids can do and all that. And I tell her that it's quite delusional to think that way, because when you leave us alone, and this is what I tell my mother. When you leave us alone, when you leave your kids alone, do not assume that when you come back, when you return to them, they still have the same level of innocence as they had when you left them. No. Kids are naturally adventurous. Kids are naturally, they want to explore. They're explorers. So when you leave a child alone for a period of time, don't expect that when you come back, that child remains on the same level of innocence, cognitive function, experience and all that. No, that child has moved, even if it is 1 inch. So you need to take that seriously and always pay attention to whatever you're leaving your child around or whoever you're leaving your child around. Now, another sign that is very prominent with children is that they might start struggling with intimacy and the ability to trust others. So when you see that, your child questions a lot of the things that you try to get them to do, there's no intimate connection, they seem aloof, they're just distant, and you're wondering what's wrong with this boy or girl, you need to start paying attention to, a lot of things around them, the people they're spending time with, the people, they're spending time around. However, in adults, it's very, very different because you're grown now, you have this ability to block out, you know, emotions that you do not like, emotions that are negative. It's a form of self-protection. So blocking out trauma from, your brain is a form of protection for adults. So this usually happens. This is a very common thing for adults. They try to like block out the memory and like, nah, it never happened. Bro, it happened. You need to acknowledge it and then, do some introspection and heal and move on. Now, in men, it can manifest in various ways. The man could become very cold, he could become very aggressive, he could become, unaffectionate, and it's not because they want to be like that. It's because it's actually a trauma response. It's a response to, what they have suffered as a child or maybe as a young adult, and that behavior is simply a reaction to that trauma. Well, if you look closely enough, this person could be suffering from shame, fear, numbness, a whole bunch of emotions that can be ruining them inside because of what they've been through. So some of the symptoms in adults include depression, anxiety, inability to connect in relationships, anger issues, sexual dysfunction, and even some form of PTSD and maybe nightmares. And this is all related to the trauma that they have experienced. While all these are symptoms, while all these are signs of, male sexual abuse, it's not the end of the world. I said in my last video, I've not been sexually abused before, so I can't really say that I know what you're going through mentally. However, I have come very close to being sexually abused, and it wasn't pleasant. The whole experience wasn't pleasant. So I'd say I can relate a little bit to some of the things that you might be thinking. I hope you send this video to somebody who you believe or who you know might be suffering from sexual abuse as an adult. So healing from sexual abuse is not easy. First of all, let's all admit that it's freaking tough. Life is tough generally. Life is tough normally. But healing from any kind of trauma is even tougher. Now, healing from sexual abuse as a man is like is one of the toughest tasks that you can have to go through as a man. So the very first step as an adult is to recognize the fact that you've been abused and the impact it has had on your life. So what do I mean by this? Simple, straightforward strategy. this thing has happened. This person perpetrated this, and this is how it has affected me. These are areas of my life that this thing has affected. You need to, if you have to make a list of it, make a list. If you have to write it down, write it down. However, the most important thing is that you identify the fact that that has happened to you. You've been sexually abused, and I'm very sorry you had to go through that. I'm really, really sorry, but it's life. Danger doesn't give a warning, and bad things happen to good people. So now, after you've accepted the fact that such a thing has actually happened to you, you need to then, look at areas of your life that it has affected. How it has affected your functionality sexually, how it has affected you socially, how it has affected you mentally, and probably even physically, because there's always the what's it called, physical the physical trauma too that it leaves behind. It's not just mental scars, it scars you physically too. So now this is where it also gets tricky. Acceptance can be very, 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 very difficult because of the trauma, the shame, the stigma that is attached to that trauma. Sorry, because of the the um, the shame and the stigma that is attached to that trauma. So accepting it and saying, okay, yes, I'm a victim of sexual abuse as a man can be very difficult. However, there is good news. Let me tell you this, my brother. If this is you, you've been sexually abused and you're watching this video, let me tell you something. It's not your fault. No matter what anybody tells you, no matter what the perpetrator tells you, it is not your fault. No matter what society says, it is not your fault. Let that stick in your brain. I say it again, my brother. It is not your fault. And if you know anyone who has been sexually abused, have it at the back of your mind that it is not that person's fault. The process of healing begins with self-compassion. This is simple and straightforward. Self-compassion in what way? What is that big English all about? I'll break it down for you. It is very, very, very crucial for you to understand the emotions that you're feeling and how you can handle them. Because your emotions are valid, no matter what you're feeling. You could be sad, angry, frustrated, all those emotions are valid. Whatever you're feeling inside from that traumatic experience is valid. So most times the victim often feels powerless and scared because they're suffering in silence. They've experienced the traumatic events in their life, and they're going through it alone. And they're suffering in silence. And there's the shame of, if you come out, everybody's going to like, oh yeah, Amanda has been raped, bro. It's not your fault. It happens. Trust me. There are a lot of men out there who are abused verbally and physically by their wives at home every day, but nobody hears anything about it because they can't come out and talk about it. So anytime anybody tries to shame you concerning your trauma, all you have to do is dismiss that shame and know that one, it's not your fault. Two, you can get out of it. Three, you also need to be able to confront your perpetrator and tell them that you effed up, you did this, and don't think I don't know, and you burn in hell for it. I don't know about that, but just try to confront your perpetrator. So at the point where you've identified the impact of the trauma in your life, you need to seek help, my brother. See, this is one of the toughest parts. You need to actually go to a trauma therapist or somebody who is a counselor when it comes to trauma, somebody who can, scientifically and psychologically go through your experience, pick out, the triggers, help you identify the triggers, help you identify how to move past it, help you identify how to heal, maybe even share resources, books, materials with you that helps you navigate that time of your life. But you need to seek help. That's very, very, very important. And if you know someone who is in such a condition, please tell that person to seek help. And if you can connect the person, please do connect the person. Help is very, 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 very important. Next, you need to identify your boundaries. Your experience has affected you in certain ways that changes your perspective. So you need to start identifying your boundaries mentally, sexually, physically. Things that places that you might get to mentally and be triggered and have post-traumatic experience. But you need to identify those areas of your life and um itemize them, identify them, itemize them, and acknowledge the fact that they're there. One thing that is quite common with victims of sexual abuse in men is that there's this constant emotional numbness. There's no need for emotional connection. There's like that wall. There's that huge wall they build up, and they don't want you to get through to them. My message for you, if this is you, is that emotional expression is not a sign of weakness. If you have to write that down on your wall or on the roof or a book or something, please write it down. Emotional connection is not a sign of weakness because healing requires feeling. I know I'm sounding like a TED Talk person or maybe a motivational speaker, but the truth is, the simple basic is healing requires feeling. You need to acknowledge the pain and the vulnerability that you've experienced. You don't have to hide behind it or use it as a mask in the world today. Above all, you need to be patient with yourself, my brother. I always say this. Self-compassion is very important in whatever you're doing when it comes to your mental health and your mental well-being. Self-compassion, nakoko. And the reason for this is because there's going to be tough days and there's going to be tougher days. I think it's the is it the US Navy or the US Marines? They have a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. So they believe that the only easy day was yesterday. So no matter how shitty yesterday was the only easy day. Today might even be shittier. So they have that mentality to like say, oh, the only easy day was yesterday. So you don't know what today might bring. So in this case, I like to say that there's going to be tough days and there's going to be tougher days. There's going to be days that you think you have it easy, dealing with your experience and, the trauma. And there's going to be days where you'll be like, ah, man, I should just roll over and die. And trust me, those are the days that you really need to work harder on yourself. It's not going to be easy. I can assure you, it's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. I always say that. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. The truth is, as a man, you deserve all the love, care, respect, and whatever emotions that you're giving out into the universe, or you're giving out into the world, you also deserve it. You deserve good things, my brother. You do deserve it. Let that sink in. You deserve good things. Some people, don't believe that they deserve good things. So let me help you now. Male sexual abuse aside, as a man, or whoever you are, you're watching this video, always have that mental note that you deserve good things. Moving on. Now, you could either choose to be a victim or a victor. I've said this before. You could either choose to be a victim or a victor. And what does that mean? A victim is somebody who says, oh, I've been sexually abused. I'm a man. Oh, I'm traumatized, this, that. Oh, and you decide to, revel in that what's it called, situation, trauma, and everything. That's fine. That's your choice. Now, you can choose to be a victor by simply saying, oh, this has happened, it's traumatic, it's changed my life, but I want to move on from it. I accept that it has happened. I accept that I've experienced it, and it's not the normal, but I want to move on from it. I want to do better. I don't want to have to, carry this load every time and impede my progress. I don't want to have to carry this burden on my shoulders and, it affects my output into the world. So that's the difference between a victim and a victor. And making that choice is not easy, I can tell you, because ego is involved and a whole lot of other emotions, human emotions. There's also fear, there's anxiety, and, you know, the moment you can switch from victim mode to victor, that's the end. That's like the first step to saying, okay, let's fix this, let's remedy this, let's go forward. So if you're finding it difficult to decide what to do, or someone who's experienced male sexual abuse and it's quite difficult for them to like move on, there are certain things that they need to do. I've mentioned it. They need to seek help from a professional therapist, someone who is licensed to help them go through their trauma, and they need to accept the fact that they need to start healing. It's tricky. You need to accept that, okay, this has happened. I need to move on. I need to survive this. I need to thrive. I need to be able to look back, look into my past and say, oh, this happened. Um, and it turned me into this, but I reclaimed myself and became this. That is a victor's story. Nobody likes a victim story. People like being the victim because it gets them sympathy and compassion, but that's the end of that. You don't go anywhere from being a victim. But the moment you're a victor, everybody wants to share out of your story, no matter how traumatic or serious it is from the beginning. So identifying male sexual abuse. We've talked about the symptoms, the things that men go through, the shame, the emotional numbness, the the difficulty in connecting with relationships. And when it comes to kids, there's the weirdness, there's the sharp change in their behavior, in their temperament, in their, in their attitude generally. There's that change. And then once you start noticing weird sexual things, weird adult sexual things with your children or with kids, that is a sign that somebody somewhere is doing something unpleasant and traumatic with your child. It is also very important to note, as a victim of male sexual abuse, that no matter what it looks like, you are not alone. And this is not just a catchphrase or anything. This is something that statistically, it is true. You are not alone as a victim of male sexual abuse. And the reason why that is because, like I said, 27% of men, 1 in 4 boys or 1 in 6 boys, before the age of 11 and 14 have been abused sexually. And the crazy thing is, anybody could be a perpetrator. I've mentioned this before. It could be your mom's friend who had done it. It could be your cousin. It could be a man. It could be a woman. And most times, in most cases, most people don't even know how to confront their, perpetrator, because they feel like it's their fault. And I tell you, there are stages which the perpetrator uses to, you know, there are stages that the perpetrator, there are stages that the perpetrator puts his, I'm just gonna have to edit that out. So there are stages that the perpetrator puts the victim of the abuse through before, getting to actually abusing them. A lot of people have different stages. Some have 5, some have 6, some have 7 stages. But I'm just going to go through the stages here so that when, if you do experience this, if you find this somewhere, if you see these things anywhere, you will know that, oh, this person is up to something. So the first stage is targeting. The perpetrator has to first of all target the victim. So they could either, create false profiles online or get close to the parents or get close to the victim. Either ways, they look at the victim, see how well, their tricks will work on the person, pick the target and proceed. And then the next stage is gaining access. Once they've picked their targets, they gain access. So they find ways to get into that person's personal life, maybe from work or maybe from the parents' family or from the parents' work, whatever. They always find a way to gain access to the victim personally, on a very personal level. It is important. That personal connection is important for the perpetrator. Then they help develop trust. There's trust development. So once they've gained access into the person's life, then they begin to, do things with the person, spend time with the person that, helps them gain the person's trust, helps them, build a very strong connection with the person. All the while, the victim thinks, oh, I have a genuine friend. Oh, I have a new friend. Oh, I have somebody who likes me. They don't know that they are rubbing oil on their body to put them in the fire. I'm sorry for that analogy, but that's what came to my mind. So yeah, trust development, they begin to tell them that, oh, this is our secrets, don't tell anybody. Oh, it's a me and you thing. Very small little things. Maybe they go out to get ice cream, they go out to spend a long time together, they go out fishing, they go out driving. It's just little things that they do, and they say, oh, it's just me and you. Oh, it's a me and you thing. It's basically trust development. That's the stage. Now there's exposure to sexual content and touch. So this is the stage where the trust and emotional connection is already established. So this is the stage where they start, you know, exposing the victim to sexual content. So you might find out that a particular adult is going around half naked in the house when there's a 7-year-old boy. And, the woman is just walking around, jiggling all her stuff half naked in the house. And it might look like nothing. It might look like, oh, he's just a kid. What can he do? Nah, that's indecent exposure. It's wrong. Your child could be a target of sexual abuse. And it could be an adult male who just, gets you into a room and tries to spend a lot of time with you alone and, starts getting very comfortable, too close for comfort, and starts touching you and all that. It's indecent exposure. You need to, get out of it. Then there's the need to maintain control by the offenders. They use the secrecy and the feeling of shame to maintain a very strong grip and control on the victim. So once you see that a child becomes very, very what's it called? Very, very somewhat, let me say, awkward around an adult or somebody else, you need to pay attention to whatever the two of them are doing alone or whatever the two of them are doing together. Now, this grooming stage is very case specific. Some people have it different, but that's like the basic structure. So once you're able to identify any of these stages, you need to investigate further, look into what is going on. You also need to educate yourself on strategies that, perpetrators use to navigate their way into your life, and, work on ways to create boundaries so that you can limit, that sort of interaction. After all said and done, I think the most important message in this whole episode is the fact that, number one, men get abused. Number two, it's not their fault. Number three, as a victim of abuse, you need to seek help and you need to move on. You should not remain a victim. You should fight for, your mental stability and move on. Without further ado, I hope this message has been helpful to you. And if it hasn't been helpful to you, I hope it's helpful to somebody around you. And please do share the video, like, comment. Please leave a comment below as to experiences that you've had in as regards sexual abuse in men. I've seen certain videos on the internet. I've seen certain videos on YouTube about this same topic, and I can tell you, men are going through stuff. I commend the men who can comfort and say, "Oh, this happened to me." Trust me, it's not easy. So if you've had such experience or you know anyone who's had such experience, please come forward, share your experience, tell us how you were able to overcome it and heal and move on with your life so that others can learn from it. And, hopefully that helps somebody out there. If you've come this far, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you. My name remains Onola Fatoba. I'm my brother Skipper, and this channel is Brother Skipper Mental Health Podcast for Men. This is where men can be real and talk about their emotions and learn from each other and support each other. And we're building a community and we'll very much love you to join. So please subscribe and join the community of emotionally aware men. Thank you for your time once again. I'll see you on the very next video, and peace, progress, and prosperity. And always remember, my brother, that's the mantra: peace, progress, and prosperity. Always remember that you're not alone. No matter what you're going through, no matter the experience, no matter the situation, always remember that you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. Thank you very much for your time.